let's get this out of the way real quick. Sony absolutely curb stomped Microsoft during E3 when it comes to the console's functionality. This has nothing to do with fanboyism or what console you're leaning towards buying. But when you make a video for YouTube, basically kicking your competitor in the dick by mocking their policies, you win. Seriously, when you control your competitor to the point that they have absolutely nothing to say in return, you have officially won the internet for the day. Now, the gameplay you're watching in the background comes from The Last of Us, which is easily a leading contender for the game of the year, or better yet, game of the console generation. This is truly a stunning game. It's an absolute masterpiece. And I picked this scene with this asshole Bill, who's like fucking Leroy Jenkins and shit like that. I swear, this motherfucker got me killed so many goddamn times that I had to do this section a shitload of times just because of him. Motherfucker will run in there and these zombies would get, oh man, I'm gonna get into that shit. Anyway, this is like my 10th or 11th or 12th try on this motherfucker, so then I finally get through this goddamn shit. But anyway, man, Sony, you fucked up. You fucked up big on this one, and at the end of the day, you're not going to have the lead over Microsoft that you believe you have. Most people will normally agree that PlayStation 4 seems like the better buy right now. Lower price, less restrictions, and a pretty good lineup of games. Most people will agree that Sony learned their lesson from the PlayStation 3 launch, where they fucked everything up. All that hard work that they went into making PlayStation 2 the most dominant console all pissed down the drain with that overpriced, underutilized piece of shit, the PlayStation 3. But with all these advantages you seem to have over Microsoft and Xbox One's failures, you still have a number of major fuck-ups that you won't be able to fix. You kicked the shit out of Microsoft in terms of the console portion of your conference, but they actually managed to top you in the gaming department. Now, we can sit here and debate about the number of exclusives, quality of games, Sony's push for indie developers to publish more online, but in the end, when it comes to major games for the upcoming consoles, Microsoft edged you out at the conference. And this is bad for a few reasons. Number one, you market yourself as the gamer's console, a console built for gaming, while Microsoft focused on TV, the NFL, water coolers, the Kinect camera that can mock you when you're jerking off. If you're the gaming console, how the fuck do you let Microsoft beat you at your own strength? I mean, look, the console advantages you have right now, they can all disappear down the road. Microsoft could roll back that 24-hour check-in bullshit. Microsoft can make the Kinect optional instead of mandatory. They could remove used game restrictions, allow indie developers and shit like that. I don't think they're going to lower the asking price, but over time, they certainly will. Remember, at one point, PlayStation 3 had no trophies, but Microsoft's achievements were so successful that Sony needed to add something to compare with that. We beat you guys in motion control crap, so you added that fucking douche wand PlayStation move. You know, the shit that looks like a porn star's vibrator or something. I know everyone's gonna go watching porn and be like, yeah, that shit looks like it. Anyway, man, the point is, shit changes. Consoles change. When Microsoft starts losing money, their first reaction is going to be, you know what? We've decided to listen to our great fan base and remove some of the items that you hate and lower the price of the consoles because we're going to be taking Kinect out of the box. Guess what? At that point, the two consoles are going to be on equal footing. Throw in the fact that we now have to pay for PlayStation Plus to access online elements of the game, and you've basically copied Xbox Live, which is something Sony users have always had the chance to taunt and make fun of Xbox players. Our console is free. You have to pay online, so fuck you. That's gone. Now we both have to pay for shit. But getting back into the games, Microsoft's initial reveal was so bad, they barely showed any games. What do they have? Forza, Rise, Quantum Break as their exclusives, and the reveal of Call of Duty Ghosts with a fucking dog. But their conference came out swinging. They had exclusives to show. Crimson Dragon, Below, Super Time Force, Loco Cycle, D4, Fantasia, Killer Instinct, and Project Spark, which looks like a great rival to Little Big Planet, by the way. Black Tusk Studios is supposedly working on the next great game behind the scenes and shit like that. And Halo, of course, made his appearance because Master Chief hasn't been pimped out enough by them. Forza, Quantum Dream, Rise were all shown again, plus they pulled their usual shit of exclusive time DLC for Call of Duty, and now fucking Battlefield, man. But what really set Microsoft apart was third-party items. Titanfall and Dead Rising 3 are Microsoft exclusives, because Titanfall is also going to be on PC as well. Although, I do think both of these games are going to end up on PlayStation 4 at some point, similar to how Mass Effect and BioShock made their way to PlayStation 3. I believe once cloud gaming is introduced to PlayStation 4, we're actually going to see those games. But in any event, that's a future item that we'll discuss in a future video. Insomniac gave Sony a nut shot and a half with Sunset Overdrive. Although this looks like a game I wouldn't play regardless of what platform it is, Insomniac was a loyal Sony studio that produced Ratchet & Clank and the Resistance exclusives for years. They became independent, which is good for them, and then they created that generic game Fuse. But now, A Microsoft exclusive? Oh, total fucking nutshot to Sony. One of the biggest advantages Sony always had was its stable of reliable studios, and now one has defected into making an Xbox game. You know, I'm happy for Insomniac. I know they do some good work, but that big fuck you to Sony should have fanboys worried to all hell. What if Naughty Dog did the same? Or Santa Monica Studios, or Guerrilla Games, or Media Molecule, or Quantic Dream. Can you imagine that? And of course, Microsoft started their conference off with another nutshot, Metal Gear. After countless games of exclusivity on PlayStation, you have Big Boss at the Xbox conference. One of the most loved franchises for Sony is not exclusive anymore. Not counting Metal Gear, Revengeance, whatever the fuck that garbage shit was called, that hack and slash bullshit. All the numbered Metal Gear games were on PlayStation consoles. Later in that evening at Sony's press conference, we got to see Kingdom Hearts 3, another Sony property. Nope, now it's multi-platform, and the real heartbreaker was Final Fantasy. Although Final Fantasy 13 was on Xbox, Final Fantasy 13 Versus was going to be a PlayStation exclusive. After years of fucked up development, they turned it into Final Fantasy 15, and now it's going multi-platform. 3 of Sony's long-favored franchises from third-party Japanese publishers are no longer exclusive. Sony only showed the Order 1886 and The Witness as their only not yet revealed games. Infamous, Killzone, Knack, Drive Club, they were all already shown at the reveal, so this was nothing new. They also had a shitload of indie games. Matter of fact, if you count up all the indie games, they actually exceed what Microsoft rolled out. But that's not going to stand up to Killer Instinct or Project Spark, and a lot of those indie games are going to end up on Nintendo as well as PC. Microsoft also trotted out Master Chief for some cheap cheers. Did we see any Sony mascots? No, we didn't. No Nathan Drake, no Kratos, no Sackboy. Shit, we didn't even see Cole McGrath, man. Since the new Infamous has another main character, looks like some emo-looking motherfucker, man. Last Guardian is still nowhere to be found, and the only shining light was that the PlayStation 3 exclusives were still coming. The Last of Us was shown, but obviously people have known this game was coming for a long time. Beyond Two Souls was also coming, Gran Turismo 6, Puppeteer, Rain, they're still all coming to PlayStation 3. But Xbox is already planning ahead. Sony seems content in letting their Japanese exclusives go. Final Fantasy and Metal Gear are 2 of the longest and most known franchises for the console. Over the years, they've lost some other exclusives like Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, Armored Core. Meanwhile, Microsoft is taking exclusives, or at least taking time exclusive. Sony is content letting their studios create more games, but who's not to say there won't be another Insomniac? Who's to say that Microsoft won't go out and buy more studios? You know, right now, Sony has 17 studios worldwide, but some of that's for PlayStation Vita as well. Microsoft right now only has 6. But obviously, with the money they piss away, they could go out and buy or start a couple more studios just so that they could start catching up to Sony. Sony wants to be the gamers console, but so far, they're letting their competitor take games from them. The E3 conference was a perfect example. They trolled the shit out of Microsoft. I mean, they literally cunt-punted them, and they showed an impressive lineup of games. But just imagine the curb stomping they could have handed out if they had Metal Gear, Kingdom Hearts, and Final Fantasy as exclusives. While telling the world Uncharted, God of War, and Little Big Planet are coming out in 2014, Microsoft would have shit a brick. And I'll guarantee you that brick probably would have been more user-friendly than Xbox One. But you know what could have killed this console generation? You know what would have ended this whole debate right from the start? Backwards compatibility. Now think about this for a second and hear me out. This is the first Sony console not to have backwards compatibility upon release. And yes, I get it. I don't really agree with it, but I get it. Sony says the new processor isn't compatible with new games. The fuck it ain't, man. Don't give me that bullshit. You have digital downloaded games. How fucking hard is it to port that from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4? Give me a fucking break, man. Half of these games are on fucking Blu-ray. And PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 are both using Blu-ray, for crying out loud, man. They ported 360 games to PlayStation 3, which went from HD DVD to Blu-ray. They ported shit to the Wii U, which has their own optic discs that are not compatible with any other console. You have games releasing on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 at the same exact time, like sports games, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed. So it's certainly possible, Sony. Don't give me this piss poor excuse that it's not the same shit. You know, with the original PlayStation 3s, the first generation ones off the production line, they had a PlayStation 2 engine built in. That's partially what drove the cost up on the motherfucker. But eventually, they rolled out other models with software emulation. Then eventually, they just completely removed backwards compatibility together with the PlayStation 3 Slim. But you could do something very fucking simple, and it doesn't even have to be a launch feature. You can do this down the road in the PlayStation Store. You can release PlayStation 3 games for download. And again, I don't want to hear this bullshit about us not being compatible, because you know that shit will be on PlayStation 4 at some point, motherfucker. The difference is with PlayStation 4 is that you can use your PSN ID that could be linked and recognize your game data through PS Plus. I don't care how it happens. I don't care what needs to be done, whether it's a simple game save or data or what. But when the system recognizes that a game you've played, that means you should be able to download that game for free, even for like a fucking nominal fee, like $2 or something like that. Now here's how it could be. Just imagine this for a second. You played Uncharted 3 on PlayStation 3, and your PSN through PlayStation Plus or whatever the fuck recognizes that as a game you have played and owned, whether it's the save data, the trophies, whatever the fuck it is. When it's released in the store as a downloadable game, those who have it in their PlayStation Plus will be able to get it for free, or that nominal fee. Those that didn't play Uncharted can pay a small price to download the motherfucker. Whatever it could be, $20, $30, doesn't matter. It's an old PlayStation 3 game. It's not full backwards compatibility. It's not a new engine being added to the console, but it's a form of backwards compatibility that Microsoft wouldn't have. It's a form of backwards compatibility that prevents Nintendo from saying they have the only console with backwards compatibility. Because at this point right now, that's Nintendo's biggest selling point over the main two consoles. And also, let's just get real, there's nothing we can do about PC. We know those assholes can brag about anything. Hey, man, they can't do nothing about that shit. You know, you guys bought that Gaikai or Gaikai company. I don't know. How the fuck you pronounce that shit, man? You know, I call it Bukaki for all I give a shit. I really don't give a fuck. But they're your cloud gaming services. But you can tap into infinite potential with that when it comes out. And you could roll out some backwards compatibility with that motherfucker. And I believe it's coming out in 2014 or whatever the fuck it is. Look into backwards compatibility with it. You would absolutely have both of these consoles by the nuts going forward in the console generation. That would absolutely pound Microsoft into submission. But guess what? You let them off the hook. This would have been one of the biggest selling features of the console upon release for those who still enjoy their older libraries. Come on, Sony, you know this is something your fans deserve, especially fans who have all four consoles, man. As much as Sony thinks they have the lead, as much of a head start as Sony gets when the new console generation finally releases, once Xbox fixes their fuckhead policies, then it's an even playing field. And once that happens, loyal and faithful fans will run back to Master Chief, forgiving Microsoft and hoping they learned a lesson. And when that time comes, you better have Nathan Drake, you better have Kratos, and you better have Sackboy sitting there to entice people not to leave. There better be a good reason to stay with Sony for the Xbox converts. Otherwise, when all that stupid shit is eliminated, they're going to go right back to their console, and it's going to be another dogfight for 5 fucking years. Anyways, I have one more console rant to go, and you guys know what's coming next. I'm not holding back in the next video either. I have one more asshole to tear, and you damn sure know I will be tearing that Microsoft ass up within 10 fucking minutes. Anyway, as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, and I'll see you guys in the next video.